Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this special Tuesday, October 17th, 2017 episode of The Burke Brigade, brought to you by The Liberty Daily, your conservative alternative to the Drudge Report. Go to thelibertydaily.com, thelibertydaily.com. You will not be sorry. I am Matthew Burke. I am flying solo tonight. My wife had a little bit of an injury from our hard workout last night at the gym. Nothing serious, but she is in a little bit of pain, or considerable pain. Again, nothing serious. So I am flying solo tonight, and we pray that the lovely and beautiful and talented and funny and charming Mrs. Burke is 100% well by tomorrow, so she can bless you with her online podcast presence. Okay, this episode, even without Jennifer, is going to be thrilling, chilling, and highly fulfilling. The top story of the day, and this is a headline at thelibertydaily.com. It's via thehill.com. It's a bombshell story. It might be, it could be, it probably should be the biggest freaking story of the day. Now, to show you the kind of traffic this story is getting on the Hill, it right now has 97,000, I'm rounding, because it's like almost 97,000 shares, and there are a whopping, I mean, normally you look at these stories, maybe there's 50 comments, 25 comments, maybe a couple hundred if it's something pretty big. There are 10,700 plus comments on this story. The headline reads, FBI uncovered Russian bribery plot before Obama administration approved controversial nuclear deal with Moscow. Now, the skinny is, this has got Hillary Clinton and nuclear paybacks for her crooked uranium deal written all over. And we're going to do something that I normally don't do at the Burke Brigade. We're going to get down in the weeds a little bit. So I'm going to ask for your permission to do that, but I'm going to read you a lot of this story because I know a lot of you are busy like we all are, and it's a little bit long, but trust me, it's worth it to know the level of corruption of these people on the left. And when there's corruption on the right, totally willing to call them out too, by the way. Okay, here we go. Before the Obama administration approved a controversial deal in 2010, giving Moscow control of a large swath of of American uranium, the FBI had gathered substantial evidence. Hold on, I'm going to turn off my sound here because my Facebook mentions are just blowing up. Okay. The FBI had gathered substantial evidence that Russian nuclear industry officials were engaged in bribery, kickbacks, extortion, and money laundering designed to grow Vladimir Putin's atomic energy business inside the United States, according to government documents and interviews. So, you wonder how Vladimir Putin is a multi-billionaire, tens of billions of dollars on a government salary. It's things like this. Okay. Federal agents used a confidential U.S. witness working inside the Russian nuclear industry to gather extensive financial records, make secret recordings, and intercept emails as early as 2009 that showed Moscow had compromised an Iranian trucking firm with bribes. Oh my God, these Facebook mentions, and I shut off the dang sound. I wish I had Mrs. Burke here. Let me close Facebook. Is it still going to do it? Okay. Sorry. all these technical difficulties, and I'm running solo. Federal agents used a confidential U.S. witness working inside the Russian nuclear industry to gather extensive financial records, make secret recordings, and intercept emails as early as 2009 that showed Moscow had compromised a uranium trucking firm with bribes and kickbacks in violation of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. FBI and court documents show. Now here's where we tie it into the Clintons, or we don't do it, thehill.com does. And this is written by John Solomon, who is an excellent investigative reporter. You may have seen him from time to time on Hannity on Fox News with Sarah Carter. Reading again here, they also obtained an eyewitness account backed by documents indicating Russian nuclear officials had routed millions of dollars to the U.S. designed to benefit former President Bill Clinton's charity foundation during the time Secretary of State Hillary Clinton served on a government body that provided a favorable decision to Moscow, sources told The Hill. The racketeering scheme was conducted, quote, with the consent of higher-level officials in Russia who, quote, shared the proceeds from the kickbacks, one agent declared in an affidavit years later. Rather than bring immediate charges in 2010, however, the Department of Justice, and who was running it in 2010? Oh, Eric Holder, the only sitting Attorney General in American history to be held in contempt of Congress for lying to Congress as he did in the Fast and Furious Obama Holder gun running scandal. Okay, so they decided not to prosecute, continued investigating the matter for 4 more years, essentially leaving the American public and Congress in the dark about Russian nuclear corruption on U.S. soil during a period when the Obama administration made 2 major decisions benefiting Putin's made 2 major decisions benefiting Putin's commercial nuclear ambitions. The first decision occurred in 2010, October of 2010, when the State Department and government agencies on the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States unanimously approved the partial sale of Canadian mining company Uranium One to the Russian nuclear giant Rosatom, R-O-S-A-T-O-M, giving Moscow control of more than 20% of America's uranium supply. Now, just to interject, most of us knew about this. Trump even campaigned some on this. We knew that Hillary signed over 20% of the nation's nuclear supplies, uranium supplies, to the Russians. Everybody and their dog knows this makes no sense. Why would you do that with a declared enemy? Right? Why would you do that? And of course, they have denied any, let's call it, collusion or corruption or any quid pro quo, but that has now ended. Reading again, when this sale was used by Trump on the campaign trail last year, Hillary Clinton's spokesman said she was not involved in the committee review and noted the State Department official who handled it said she never intervened on any committee on the foreign investment in the United States matter. In 2011, the administration gave approval for Rosatom, I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, the Russian company, Rosatom's 10X subsidiary, to sell commercial uranium to U.S. nuclear power plants in a partnership with the United States Enrichment Corp. Before then, 10X had been limited to selling U.S. nuclear power plants reprocessed uranium recovered from dismantled Soviet nuclear weapons under the 1990s megatons to megawatts peace programs. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. The Obama administration's decision to approve Rosatom's purchase of Uranium One has been a source of political controversy since 2015. That's when conservative author, best-selling author, Peter Schweizer and the New York Times, not exactly a right-wing rag there, documented how Bill Clinton collected hundreds of thousands of dollars in Russian speaking fees, and his charitable foundation collected millions in donations from parties interested in the deal, while Hillary Clinton presided on the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States. Again, this is the real collusion. What we've learned about the left, they will always accuse you of doing what they're doing. It's like the 11th commandment of Democrat politics. And this is why they have been so hell-bent to project this Russian collusion nonsense onto Trump. Because they're the ones doing it. They were the ones doing it, and they all knew it. So, it says the Obama administration and the Clintons defended their actions at the time, insisting there was no evidence that any Russians or donors engaged in wrongdoing, and there was no national security reason for any member of the committee to oppose a uranium deal. They're Russians! What are you talking about? Giving our enemies nuclear fuel, not a problem? How do they say this stuff with a straight face? But FBI Energy Department and court documents reviewed by The Hill show the FBI, in fact, had gathered substantial evidence well before the committee's decision that Vadim Mikarin, the main Russian overseeing Putin's nuclear expansion inside the United States, was engaged in wrongdoing starting in 2009. Then Attorney General Eric Holder was among the Obama administration officials joining Hillary Clinton on the Committee of Foreign Investment in the United States at the time the uranium deal was approved. Jeez Louise. Multiple current and former government officials told The Hill they did not know whether the FBI or DOJ ever alerted committee members to the criminal activity they uncovered. And conveniently, or inconveniently, in order to get to the truth, spokesmen for Holder and Clinton did not return calls seeking comment. The Justice Department also didn't comment. Now, I wonder why. Mikarin was a director of Rosatom's Tenex in Moscow since the early 2000s, where he oversaw their nuclear collaboration with the United States under the blah blah. Okay, that's getting too far, even too far deep in the weeds than we want to get here. And this goes on and on and on. It even wraps in now Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, who we refer to here at the BURKE Brigade as Terry McAwful, a lifelong political criminal, part of the Clinton machine, perhaps has presidential ambitions. But this story continues to go on and on and on. And if this is not racketeering, if this is not corruption, if this is not the biggest financial corruption in political American history, I don't know what is. I mean, this makes the third-rate robbery during the Nixon administration, where some of his lackeys broke into the DNC, like Sunday school. I mean, we're talking giving up national security to the Russians in return for cash. Heads need to roll over this. Not only do heads need to roll, there needs to be prison time for all those involved, including Barack Obama, Eric Holder, and Hillary Clinton. Okay, that is the biggest story of the day. You can get that at thehill.com by John Solomon. Again, it's entitled FBI Uncovered Russian Bribery Plot Before Obama Administration Approved Controversial Nuclear Deal with Moscow. Now, unfortunately here, I'm going to go to the front page of the Hill. It has already been buried. So that is by far the biggest story of the day. It is probably the biggest political corruption story in the history of the United States. If you can think of a bigger one, I'd love to see it. Oh, maybe Obama using the IRS to attack his political opponents. But this is probably even bigger than that, because it's literally giving the fuel for nuclear weapons to an enemy of America. And then enriching themselves in the process. It's treason. It's more than just corruption. It's outright treason, where they have aided and abetted the enemy, and they've done so while enriching themselves. So now we know why perhaps Hillary Clinton won't return the $250,000 that Harvey Weinstein gave her at the Clinton Foundation, because she is a greedy witch with a capital B. Okay, moving on from this. Now, I would highly recommend, before we move on from this, that you will go to that story on thehill.com by John Solomon, that you will tweet it, that you will put it on Facebook, that you'll put it on any other social media site. Flood the airways, flood the internet with this, because it's going to be really interesting to see if the Democrat media complex, like CNN, the Communist News Network, or MSNBC, or CBS, or NBC, or ABC, or any of the others, LA Times, New York Times, if they make a big deal about this. Because if this was a Republican deal, this would be a bigger story than what they did to Trump over this fake Russian collusion with Trump that they've literally done for 8 or 9 months. Absolutely shameful. And again, how do these people sleep at night? So that was the biggest story today. The second biggest story today is probably this deal with James Comey. There's more evidence tonight that, well, I tell you what, I'm just going to play this from Bret Baier. Trey Gowdy was on with Bret Baier today, and there's more proof that James Comey declared Hillary Clinton's innocence way in advance. Not only did he declare her innocence, but he had already written it up, apparently, according to this report, which appears to be very, very well sourced. Oh, I guess I got to turn my sound back up, huh?
Then FBI Director James Comey.
Here, let's start this again.
Welcome back to the White House. The FBI is releasing documents confirming that then FBI Director James Comey began drafting his public statement about the Hillary Clinton email investigation 2 months before it was complete. Joining me now with reaction is South Carolina Congressman Trey Gowdy.
I think that's what we call putting the cart before the horse.
The chairman of the House Oversight Committee and a member of the House Intelligence and Judiciary Committees. He's in Greenville tonight. Congressman, thanks for being here.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I think I left.
Sorry, but this just proves this whole investigation into Hillary Clinton was a sham. It was a sham operation. They had no intention. It didn't matter what she did. They were not going to convict her or charge her with anything. And proof of this is that Russian uranium story that I just read you from thehill.com, John Solomon. If they're not going to go after her for that, what is worse? Literally, what is worse than that? I can't think of too much.
Left out ethics. You're on every committee, I guess.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for being here. Listen to this soundbite from a hearing.
Did you make the decision not to recommend?
Okay, this was in September of last year. James Comey, under oath.
Criminal charges relating to classified information before or after Hillary Clinton was interviewed by the FBI on July the 2nd?
After. If colleagues of ours believe...
So there he is. He's lying through his green teeth. He is lying about that.
I am lying about when I made this decision, please urge them to contact me privately.
Oh, we will. Ho, 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 ho.
So we can have a conversation about this. All I can do is tell you again, the decision was made after that because I didn't know what was going to happen in that interview.
Well, now the FBI has come out with these documents that suggest that that decision was made well before that time. Your thoughts on all of this?
Well, Brett, we're going to take him up on his offer. We are going to talk to his present and former colleagues. May the 2nd is when these memos, these heavily redacted memos, appear where they are discussing internally whether or not to make a charging decision. It is a month and a half later before he announces his decision in early July. So you got, that's 2 months. 2 months from May the 2nd until July the 5th. There were 24 witness interviews in that time period. So if you're discussing whether or not to charge someone in early May and you haven't interviewed 24 witnesses, including one named Clinton, John Ratcliffe asked exactly the right question. I'm just not sure that Director Comey gave him an accurate answer.
Well, we now know he didn't give him an accurate answer, and I wish they would just call this what this is, a lie. So hopefully we will get to the bottom of this. I'm not hopeful based on past performance. I mean, Trey Gowdy is an excellent prosecutor. Watching him do these interrogations is wonderful entertainment on YouTube. But it doesn't seem like anything ever comes of them. Other than he gets to verbally beat them up one side and down the other and embarrass people in front of God and everybody, but nothing else really happens. I mean, Hillary Clinton should have been in jail a long time ago, and Loretta Lynch and all the rest of these treasonous leftists. Okay, moving on. There is more insanity in the NFL. So, firstly, and this was just breaking later this afternoon, and this is over at the Right Scoop, one of our favorite sites here on the Burke Brigade, but the Jacksonville Jaguars, the NFL team there, have apologized to local military leaders for demonstrating during the national anthem in London last month. And as you will recall, embarrassingly, on foreign soil, they sat disrespecting the American flag and everything that it stands for during the national anthem. But then, when they played the British national anthem, they stood in reverence and respect. It's unfreaking real. So, Jaguars president Mark Lamping, Lamping, he sent a letter to the Director of Military Affairs and Veterans in Jacksonville, saying that the team was, quote, remiss in not fully comprehending the effect of the national anthem demonstration on foreign soil has had on men and women who have or continue to serve our country. This was an oversight and certainly not intended to send a message that would disparage you, our flag, or our nation. To that I call, that's utter BS. Total BS. You're doing it during the national anthem, you idiot. Are you kidding me? You didn't know it would be disrespectful? Have you read the freaking newspapers? Do you ever go on Twitter? Do you watch television? Have you seen the interviews with regular, everyday Americans that are pissed at you ungrateful, overpaid, spoiled, anti-American brats? Absolutely disgusting. Listen to this. This is quoting from the faux apology letter. The notion never entered our minds of our players or anyone affiliated with the Jacksonville Jaguars. But today, we can understand now the events in London on September 24th. What is today? The 17th? That's 3 weeks ago or something like that? Now they've just woken up to the fact? I don't buy it. I'll bet if you go to their Facebook page on September 24th and thereafter, I bet they were lit up like a Christmas tree. They knew before what they were doing. Now they're claiming insanity? No. No, you don't get to do that. Sorry, I cry foul. It's too damn late for your fake apologies. You screwed the pooch. You proverbially made your bed, your unpatriotic, anti-American bed, and now you must sleep in it. And it's going to be a cold day in hell before you win back a good portion of your fans. You know, it's just so disingenuous. We didn't know what we were doing. I mean, we could have protested before the game or after the game or go to a Black Lives Matter communist rally, but we didn't know doing the national anthem would offend anybody. Oh, shut up. Freaking moron. Good gosh. So the NFL, it gets worse. If you can believe it, it gets worse. The NFL has basically been fundamentally, and I just have to say again, don't know how many times you've been listening. I'm 55 years old. I've been watching the NFL since I was probably 5 years old. That makes me alive for 50 freaking years of a fan. And the thrill is gone. I'm just saying. The thrill is gone. I was one of the most rabid, passionate NFL fans. So is Jennifer. And the thrill is gone. I mean, you know, if our kids come over and want to watch the Seahawks games, you know, I lived in Seattle for 32 years. So, I mean, going back to Jim Zorn to Steve Largent days, okay? You know, I'll watch it, but if they're not here, I really don't care. I just don't care. It's like I have been emotionally separated because from the NFL, and I gotta believe a lot of other people have too, because like a lot of other, you know, red-blooded Americans out there, I love the country more than I do the NFL. And if you're gonna disrespect my country, to hell with you. To hell with you. Get your money, get your views, get your clicks, get your ratings from somebody else. So that full apology from the Jaguars, that is not going to work. And either is this. The NFL Democrat Super PAC, I'm calling him that obviously. This is a Daily Caller. NFL gets more political. They're now getting involved. Endorses sentencing reform bill. So now they're getting into one of the left's favorite topics, criminal sentencing reform, which basically means letting people out early. You know, they always use this. The left, they always use reform like it's some panacea. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's bad reform. Have you ever thought about that? You know, they say, oh, reform. It just needs to be reformed. You know, as long as you reform something, it's all better. You know, Obamacare reform. No, you weren't elected to do Obamacare reform. You were elected to pull it out by its roots. Roots and branch. I think that's what Mitch McConnell said. Root and branch. So reading here from the Daily Caller, the NFL endorsed criminal justice reform legislation Monday, despite national outcry that the organization should work to distance itself from political debate. I wonder why. You're a damn sports team. You're not a Democrat Super PAC. Reading again, the NFL-backed bipartisan legislation introduced last week by Republican Senator Chuck Grassley and Democratic Senator Dick Durbin, the Washington Post reported. The legislation would cut mandatory minimum sentences for nonviolent offenders, give judges more discretion to tailor sentences to individual offenders, and establish programs to prepare low-level offenders to re-enter society. Maybe some of that's good, and probably some of it is. But there's also the possibility that the overwhelming majority of it sucks and is bad and is going to be doing nothing positive for society than being soft on crime. I guarantee you this. If communist Dick Durbin, Chicago, Illinois communist Dick Durbin, literally a communist, has his fingers in this, there's probably not a lot of good there. I mean, unless he wants to get criminals out early so they can vote for him, which is exactly what probably 90% of them would do. Most criminals are Democrats, and I wonder why. Because they learn from the best. You know, the only difference between Hillary and these people in jail right now are that she doesn't get prosecuted. She's above the law. That's the only difference. And her crimes are probably worse. But you know, you'll notice they're not calling for her to receive justice. Okay, we felt that this, quote, we felt that this was an issue over the last months as we have continued to work with our players on issues of equality. Do you really think they want equality? If they want equality, why don't they all make $59,000 a year like the average American household? They don't want equality. Ay, ay, ay. And this is their spokesman, Joe Lockhart. Now, do you remember him? I got to look up here. I think it was the Clinton administration. Yeah, he was a press secretary. He was a press secretary from 1998 to 2000 for Slick Willie. So he's a Democrat operative who's the spokesman for the NFL. And then you wonder why they're going left? You wonder why they're political? You wonder why you can't on Sunday relax and escape from some of the ridiculous reality we have to go through with politics? That there's trying to shove leftist propaganda down your throats, even during a freaking NFL game with these airheads, these airheaded players that don't know what in the hell they're protesting or why, that are useful idiots. You wonder why. They're tools, they're puppets, they're useful idiots, they're dupes. You know, and this started, of course, with Colin Kaepernick. Old Colin Kaepernick. Castro, communist, Castro-loving, cop-hating, mediocre quarterback, Colin Kaepernick. Or as we call him here at the Burke Brigade, Crapernick. Now, just to show you, at their meeting today, after it was over, because players met with owners, this is at TMZ, the NFL's Malcolm Jenkins, he's a corner back. He came out today and when asked by reporters, admitted that Colin Kaepernick, who by the way didn't register to vote, you know, he's so politically tuned in, but hasn't voted, he was invited to this meeting, but he didn't show up. And Malcolm Jenkins didn't know why. Isn't that interesting? Because whatever problems they're trying to solve, and it's not sure what they are, they don't want to solve them. This is all about energizing the base, the radical leftist communist base of the Democrat Party. That's all this is. He was invited, according to Malcolm Jenkins, and he refused to show up. Now, if you go to profootballtalk.com, which is morphed into a Kaepernick propaganda site, I mean, literally, I mean, it is so funny to read these pro-Kaepernick propaganda pieces, and then you read the comments from the readers, and they just light them up. You know, because you can, like, vote up or vote down the comments of people. And the ones that are for Kaepernick, the comments where people are saying something in favor of Kaepernick, number one, they're probably 10-1 anti-Kaepernick and anti-flag sitting. But when somebody does say something in favor of him or that an NFL team should sign him, I mean, it goes down. It has 50, 100 times more up votes than down votes. So that's like, I think, representative of where the American public is on this stuff. When you go to a football site and you read the comments from regular everyday football fans, and they are that diametrically opposed to that, you know what's going on. Okay, so he didn't show up, just like he got out of his contract. He got out of his $14 million contract, and now he's worried that he doesn't have a job. Well, guess what? That's the risk you took. You thought other teams wanted you. Oops. Newsflash, they don't. You have Ryan Fitzpatrick playing instead of you. You have Jay Cutler playing instead of you. These quarterbacks suck. And it doesn't matter, Kaepernick, if you're better than them. You're not worth the trouble. You're not worth ticking off half of the fans or more. You're not worth it. You're just not that good. So, sorry, there's consequences. You have the right to, now you can go stand out or go kneel during the parking lot during the national anthem because you won't be allowed on the football field. And that, of course, is all on you. So during this meeting today, the NFL said that they will they will allow players to kneel during the anthem without penalty. Isn't that nice? So you can't flip off a referee, but you can, in essence, do the equivalent of that and flip off the American flag. You can't BA the crowd. There's a lot of things that you can't do. They regulate what kind of dances you do in the end zone. Those are free speech, are they not? But yet, they will not insist that you stand for the national anthem. And why is that? Well, one reason we just found out, Joe Lockhart is a Democrat operative, and he's their spokesman. And lefties have taken over the NFL. It is effectively now a Democrat Super PAC. Okay, so I hate to talk mixed sports and politics, as do most people, but they've forced it on us, have they not? Okay, so there is, our president, who has done some very good things. This is literally a flip-flop of epic proportions within hours. So, Rhino's Lamar Alexander, he's a senator from Tennessee, and Patty Murray rated one of the dumbest senators or I think at one point the dumbest senator in America. I think now she's the number 2, 3, 4 Democrat senator. She's way up there because she's hung around since I think 1992. I think she got into office when Bill Clinton did. So she's from Washington State, which is, gone off the deep end because of all the people that moved up there from California. They went to bed together, and it was not pretty. It was not pretty. They put together a deal in which they will do what were illegal, a federal judge ruled were illegal subsidies that were laundered from the American taxpayers to insurance companies as part of this ill-conceived Obamacare scheme. Now, Trump appropriately should have done it earlier, but better late than never. He said, no, we're not doing these bailouts anymore, these insurance bailouts. And he said this morning that these subsidies are simply just, quote, lining the pockets, end of quote, of the insurance companies. But now, Hillary, in fact, I'll just play this for you. This is President Trump this morning, and he's absolutely correct on this. This was just a money laundering scheme to enrich the insurance companies as part of Obamacare. And here's John Roberts from Fox News at a joint press conference today in the Rose Garden.
Nice place. I have a question for the Prime Minister in a moment, if I could. But first, sir, you said just a short time ago that Obamacare is virtually dead. Your plans for Graham Cassidy have not been able to get off the ground in the Senate. There's no idea whether or not it will in early 2018. You've been picking around the edges to some degree with the executive orders, some of which critics say are helping to destroy Obamacare. So I'm wondering, at this point, what is your health care plan, sir?
Well, if you look at insurance companies and you take a good strong look and at the numbers, you'll see since the formation of Obamacare, they're up 400%, 450%, 250%, 300%. They've made a fortune, the insurance companies. So when I knocked out the hundreds of millions of dollars a month being paid back to the insurance companies by politicians, I must tell you, that wanted me to continue to pay this, I said I'm not going to do it. This is money that goes to the insurance companies to line their pockets, to raise up their stock prices, and they've had a record run. They've had an incredible run, and it's not appropriate. Obamacare is a disaster. It's virtually dead. As far as I'm concerned, it really is dead, and I predicted that a long time ago. It's a concept that doesn't work, and we are very close. We feel we have the votes, and as soon as we're finished with taxes, John, we really feel we have the votes to get block grants into the states where the states can much better manage this money and much better take care of the people rather than the federal government. The state block grants will do massive block grants into the various states so that the states can run the program.
Okay, all good for the most part, right? You know, the federal government has no business in healthcare, period. It is not an authorized function of the federal government, but that's a whole different show. It is. So now we're just basically looking for things that are less bad and to get them as far the hell out of it as possible, because the government destroys virtually everything they're involved in, especially when it comes to tinkering with free markets. They absolutely, anytime they get involved, costs go up, quality goes down, and there's no better example of that than healthcare, except maybe college. You know, they've subsidized college, and we've seen, you know, costs soar, and of course we've seen quality just go absolutely down into the toilet. But now there's various reports that President Trump is supporting Lamar Alexander and Patty Murray's short-term plan to continue to bail out insurance companies. Well, wait a minute. Which is it? If they're just lining the pockets of insurance companies, why the hell would you support that? What the hell? I just don't get it. You know, this is what happens when you... I'm sorry to rub it in. Sorry to say I told you so, but I told you so. You know, when you elect somebody with no principles, they're going to be all over the board. You know, they're just going to make things up as they go. I mean, Trump's principles change with the wind. And as the wind blows, so often he's on, you know, the conservative side, the constitutional side. But at other times, the wind comes and blows a different direction, and all of a sudden he's making deals with Chuck and Nancy. So that is disappointing. About right when, you know, you start saying, wow, he's on the right track again, then, of course, he goes off the deep end again. Okay, that's disappointing. But more disappointing than that, I mean, if I were a Democrat, I'd be hanging my head in shame. And this is not a done deal yet. There's not a conviction or anything, but this is on Breitbart. The California wildfires, horrific, right? Over 40 people killed. I mean, have you seen the before and after pictures where you see all these houses these neighborhoods before, and they're just burnt to the ground after. It's horrific, and it looks like it's arson, and it looks like it was an illegal alien that started the Mexifornia fires. This is via Breitbart. The U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, ICE, issued a detainer request on the Sonoma County Jail for Jesus Fabian Gonzalez, who was arrested Sunday on suspicion of arson in wine country fires that have killed at least 40 residents. Breitbart News reported earlier this week that Sonoma County sheriffs had arrested Jesus Fabian Gonzalez, age 29, at Maxwell Regional Park in Sonoma County after a series of reports of ongoing fires in the region. Here's the kicker. Mr. Gonzalez was observed around 3 p.m. Pacific time wearing a jacket and walking out of the creek area and a plume of smoke behind him, according to the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. Imagine that, a newspaper in California called The Democrat. Mr. Gonzalez, who is homeless, because they have a homeless problem in the leftist utopia known as California. Mr. Gonzalez, who is homeless and reportedly known by law enforcement to have been living under a nearby bridge, claimed he was cold and had lit the fire to stay warm. But there's just one problem with that. It was a balmy 78 degrees when he and the plume of smoke were first observed. So, Democrats, I know you don't care about our country. I know you hate our country. But it's really sad when you let these kind of people into the country. It's really sad. And now maybe you want to rethink your strategy of letting anybody into this country that wants to come here for any reason, without any vetting, without any assimilation, without any thought to, wow, do they really want to be are they self-sufficient? Can they speak the freaking language? Can they work? Do they have skills? Or are they just going to be on welfare or living under a bridge like this guy setting half the freaking state on fire? Shame on you. Shame on you, Democrat Party. You sleazy bastards. You sleazy anti-American bastards. All for votes. All because you've screwed over the American people so bad. You've sucked the living daylights out of the American taxpayer for decades. And now you have to import illegals because American voters are tuning you off. After 8 years of the corrupt Marxist Obama regime. With that, there's so much news today, to be honest with you. I had a hard time deciding what we were going to talk about here on the Burke Brigade. I do appreciate you tuning in. You have no idea. There are other really great stories today on thelibertydaily.com. Thelibertydaily.com, which is the conservative alternative to the Drudge Report. And if you'll go there, you'll see a lot of the stories I talked about, but also some other really great stories, like Sheriff David Clark, for example, telling NFL players if they really want to make a difference, what they should do is get their sorry butts into Chicago, into these crime-ridden Fallujah-like hellholes areas, and tell the gangbangers, quote, gangbangers, to put their guns down. But they don't want to do that. They don't have the courage to do that. What they want to do is make cheap political points. Or there's another story on there about country singer Pat Garrett writes a song in the wake of the NFL protests against the American flag. Another great story, and you can listen to that on thelibertydaily.com. Okay, we're going to tune out. Thank you for tuning in. God bless America, greatest country God has ever blessed this world with. You guys have a great evening again. Thank you for tuning into the Burke Brigade. Hopefully tomorrow we'll have the great, wonderful, beautiful, and in every other way positive and enduring Jennifer Burke back on the Burke Brigade. God bless. Bye.